A new Pulsar is always exciting, and that is exactly what we have here. Well, you all might be thinking that this is a bike that we have already reviewed, but no, it's not. This is an all-new Pulsar. Say hello to the Pulsar N160, the smaller sibling of the Pulsar N250. And you might be wondering that it looks the same. That's because it does. It also shares a lot of its mechanicals with that bike, barring the fact that this gets an all-new 165cc single-cylinder engine. Welcome to the first ride review of the Bajaj Pulsar N160. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, share this video with like-minded enthusiasts, and click on that bell icon to stay notified on all things thrill of riding. Let's talk about the design of this N160, and honestly, if you have seen our first ride review of the Pulsar 250s, you would notice that this is pretty much identical to its bigger sibling, and in most ways it is. You get the same basic design language, you get the same front end, the same tank, the same seat setup, the same rear end, all of that is the same. And in fact, this being the more premium top end variant, you get the same fork setup, the same fat 37mm forks, and the same size disc brakes as well. However, there are a few things that the eagle-eyed among you would have noticed that sets this apart from the 250. First is the badging. Now, that's a dead giveaway that this is the 160 and not the 250. The second are these more traditional bulb-based blinkers instead of the LED blinkers that you have on the 250s. And third is that this bike with the new 160cc engine gets an underbelly exhaust instead of the side-slung exhaust on the 250. Now, the fact that this looks like the 250 is something I'm not going to be complaining about at all. What do you think of the design of this bike? Let us know in the comment section below. Alright, now let's talk about what is actually new on this motorcycle, and that would be its engine, the heart of everything. It gets a 165cc single cylinder mill that is oil cooled and gets a 2-valve head. In terms of outputs, you have 15.68 bhp at 8,750 rpm and 14.7 Newton meters of torque at 6,500 rpm. But those are all just numbers. What is this bike to ride? Well, thumb the starter and you are immediately greeted with tons of refinement, and that holds true throughout the rev range. There were very little vibes to speak of even when you are chasing the red line, and you honestly don't want to be doing that because the meat of this power is in the low end and the mid range of the power band. And there, when you're riding it there, is when you actually realize just how tractable this engine is. You can be riding as low as 3,000 rpm and the bike will chug along happily without any complaints whatsoever. However, if you do want to make a quick overtake, you might have to drop a gear or two, but you wouldn't mind doing that at all because this is mated to a 5-speed gearbox, which is extremely slick and tactile when you make a shift. And talking about easy shifts, you also have an extremely light clutch action, which just makes the entire experience extremely effortless, whether you're riding in the city or out on open roads like we are. Another thing I really like about this engine is its exhaust note. Bajaj has managed to make an extremely bassy, deep and raughty exhaust note. But why am I telling you this when you can just listen to it? Quite nice, right? Now let's talk about the chassis setup of this motorcycle. Being that this is the top end variant, it gets dual channel ABS with a larger front disc as standard, and it also gets the same front suspension setup as the Pulsar N250. If you were to opt for the base single channel ABS variant, like I said, you'd miss out on dual channel ABS. The front disc would be slightly smaller and you'd also get skinnier 31mm forks up front. We have exclusively ridden only the top end variant today, so my opinions are going to be strictly reserved to that. So, the front suspension setup is beautiful. It is pliant, it is confidence inspiring, it goes over speed breakers and potholes extremely well. The same goes for the rear, but if I had one small complaint with the rear suspension is that the monoshock feels ever so slightly stiff. meaning when you're going over a speed breaker, the rear end, it feels a little harsh, not too much, nothing that I would complain about excessively, but something that could be tweaked in the future. Apart from that, the bike feels extremely plush. It is a very neutral handler, and what that means is that you have no surprises no matter what situation you're in. If you're entering a corner, you know exactly what your bike is doing at all times. It holds the line well, and this is also down to the fact that it is wearing MRF Zapper S tires, which even in these rains held up surprisingly well. In terms of braking, you get tons of bite and feedback, and it is extremely linear and progressive in the way it stops the bike. Even this dual channel ABS setup, it is calibrated very well, and I never once got that harsh feedback that you get on the lever if you're going too hard on the brakes. And this is something you would especially appreciate when you're riding in conditions like we are right now, where it's been raining constantly. And never once did I get any scare whatsoever. So on the whole, I feel this package is extremely well set up. It is slightly on the sportier side, very slightly. As you can see, I am 5'10" and my feet are a little behind, but not uncomfortably so whatsoever. One other small complaint I have about the chassis setup is this handlebar. It is not as wide as I would have liked it to be. Were it slightly wider, you would get more leverage, be it when you're riding slow or fast. So that is something I would have liked to be slightly different. But apart from that, this bike gets a huge thumbs up from my end. Alright, so now the day's come to an end. We have spent a day with this Pulsar N160, and what do I think about it? Well, this here, like I said, is the top end variant, and this will cost you rupees 1,28,000 odd ex-showroom. For that, you get a very tractable engine, a very nice and comfortable chassis setup, a comfortable riding style, dual channel ABS, which is not something any other 160cc bike gets, so that is a big thumbs up. All for a price that I feel is rather justifiable. Now, the primary rival for this bike is the Apache 160 4V. How this fares against that, we'll have to wait for our comparison review for that. Do I recommend this for you? If you're in the market for a stylish, comfortable bike with slight sporty intentions and don't want to spend too much and you don't need extreme amounts of performance, you have a great choice in this Pulsar N160.